Yes, yeah, I agree. I do need a haircut, but I've been stretching out a bit to get a bit closer to Christmas. Don't want to be going for a haircut in between Christmas and New Year, so I've gone a bit longer than usual. But never mind all that. It's table talk time. Have we got some stuff to talk about? As usual? Oh yes. Hello, welcome everybody to Model Kit Stuff and to this week's Table Talk. A special warm welcome to all my new subscribers and especially those of you who are international. Yeah, YouTube are now taking my videos. I think they're doing it with everyone. I mean, I've had the message, but I'm guessing they're doing it with everyone. I know Harry Houdini mentioned it, and they're translating them into all sorts of different languages. And I've already had, I can't remember if it was one or two messages that were in a foreign language, so I had to put it in Google Translate and then type an answer in Google's Translate and put it back. So it's a bit of a can of worms really, because it can create more work. I like to try and respond, even if it's just a thumbs up and a heart. But if you actually need to write something, that takes a little bit more time. But on the flip side, they're opening your videos up to more viewers, and that's good from their point of view, because the more people watch your video, the more advertising revenue YouTube gets. So yeah, I see why they're driving that. So yeah, a few things to talk about. Some things carrying on from last week, and new products, and then I've got a decision I would like you guys to make. And then, yeah, all sorts of stuff. So let's start with the normal run of things and just go over what happened last week to make sure you didn't miss anything. So a busy old week this week, because we actually kicked the week off on Sunday rather than Monday with the compressor. This bad boy here. Now, I was told that it went out of stock fairly early after my video had gone up. So I believe it's back in stock, because after that I had messages to say I've just got one and so on and so forth. And I know some people are just taking delivery of this, having ordered it on Sunday or have just received it in the last few days. With the exception of one person, I've had nothing but positive feedback from people who have had a quick play with it. I've used it now a couple of times and I've been really happy with it. One person was complaining that it kept switching on and then switching off, as in airflow. I suspect what he was doing, I don't know this, because it's normal behaviour for compressors, if they're left on, that they replace the air pressure when the air pressure's dropped away. So either there was a slight leak, maybe he hadn't tightened up his hose properly, or he just left the compressor on and it'd been on for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours without bothering to switch it off. Well, you will get a slight drop in pressure over time, and then it'll cut in and fill it up. So he was complaining that it was working without pressing the air on the airbrush. But it's the only person that said that. I've certainly not had that experience. One of the reasons I have a tank compressor is I want it to do exactly what this person was complaining about. I want it to cut in and refill the tank when the tank needs refilling and not be constantly running. My previous compressor, I had a very simple compressor before that one, and you'd switch it on and it would just keep running. And regardless of whether you had the airbrush on or not, it would just keep running. And so it was very, very noisy, whereas most compressors, they're refilling the tank, and therefore they're quieter because the duration of noise is shorter. It's just refilling the pressure in the tank. This is slightly different. It's only giving you pressure when you're asking for it, but I guess there is some form of pressurized air within there. There must be some form of tank or something in there, who knows. But it's been quite popular. People are loving it. You can see it's light, it's space saving, it's not overly noisy, I don't think, and you can get 2 airbrushes in it and attach 2 airbrushes on it. So I think it's a great little product. I really do. Yeah, and it's dead easy to use. Changing air pressures is so easy. So you saw in my video, or if you haven't, go and watch the video, that I could change from doing large painting, general painting, drop my air pressure right down to the bottom and do, without changing paint in my airbrush or anything, do some very delicate camouflage pattern and then whack it back up to do big areas again at a touch of a button. So really handy and quite usable, and I think it's a great little product. Now, I'm not going to use this all the time because it's noisier. Well, it's not. It's actually quieter than my my tank compressor, but the noise is on for a more prolonged time, because whenever you've got your finger on the trigger, it's making noise, whereas my compressor is only making noise when it's refilling the tank. But I used it the other day because I quickly wanted to just paint something, and I could plop this on really quickly. So I will find a use for it. Someone said it'd be great for taking to model club nights and things like that. Not sure they'll thank you for that being on all night, but yeah, it's very mobile, very flexible. I think it's a great product, and I know people have bought it primarily as space saving. A lot of people have said, or for having a second one, so I do all my painting in the garage, but when it's too cold in the winter or in the evening or what have you, to be able to do something indoors with this little compressor is ideal. So it's a flexible little tool, and it wasn't expensive, so go and check that out. Don't forget my 10% discount regardless of whatever offers you got going through the website link. But that wasn't the end of Gaahleri this week, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So Monday we had my little guide to the adhesives that I like, the ones that I use, and a bit of an explanation as to why I use them. I have them on hand. Now that is just a small little puddle of the adhesives I have. I've got all sorts, partly because I bought some to try on the channel for you guys. When new products come out, I'm a bit of a sucker for, oh, let's try that. And then you try it and you go, oh, that was a waste of money, wasn't it? You know, MIG Ultra Glue, what a load of junk. But, you know, that's the way of the world. So those were my quintessential glues, the ones that I use time and time again, the one that I go back to, the one that I like using. And the trouble is, because I like using them, I'm not using up my other stuff. So I want to use up my Tamiya stuff and get rid of it. Although I do really want to try the using the airbrush cleaner as an adhesive, but you cannot get Tamiya airbrush cleaner in the UK. Hold that thought, because we'll be coming back to Tamiya availability in the UK a little bit later on. Wednesday saw episode 22 of the Endeavour build, and we are so close to the end of that. I don't know if it's one more or two more videos. Obviously you've seen it, you know it's done. I think it's possibly two more videos. I've actually still got to film a little sum up of it, so I need to get it off display, put it on the bench, talk about what I thought of the model, and then we can round that off. So I think it's probably another two videos. As you know, we don't end up putting the sails on in the end, but we do. You do see me trying to glue them flipping sails. So yeah, we're nearly done with Endeavour, which means that Fly will be coming back. I have been doing my video plan for next year, so don't expect Fly to be coming back dead soon, because what I want to do is get a body of work done on her so I can start putting the videos out regularly and it's not an issue. So I'm going to be beavering away in the background, finishing the second planking, painting up the hull, starting to build on that, and I don't want to do any of that. Well, I don't want to show any of that until I'm moving on and I'm at a pace. So I might get to the point where we're sort of about to add the masts, and then I'll start releasing the videos so that you've got a continuous flow of videos. Yeah, I need to think about how I do that, because I don't want to slow the absolute beginners builds down. That's every other week. I don't want to do it any less frequent than that. But potentially I've got a small number of first impressions to do of wooden ships and what have you. So we might sort of do a little run of wooden modelling, tool reviews, product reviews, kit reviews, and then start bringing in fly. And it may be that we'll do beginners build every other week, and then 1 week in the month we'll have fly, and 1 week in the month we'll have first impressions. Don't quite know yet. I'm all a bit loosey-goosey on that until we see how quickly we progress. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that when we talk about what happened on the bench. So that was Wednesday. Then Friday we had double video. So we kicked Friday off with this bad boy here. Brand new Mobius Siphon airbrush. Absolutely stunning airbrush. I started out my career, airbrushing career, if you can call it a career, more of a sort of meander with Siphon airbrushes. My first one was a pistache, something like that. I can't remember what the brand was called, Pache or something, don't know. But it was fairly basic. I think probably like a 0.15 needle or something. It was like, I mean, I exaggerate a little bit, but it was a big chunky needle. It was, yeah, I remember it well. And it came with 2 jars and a paint cup, siphon feed underneath, and it was on off. There was no pulling back on the trigger. It was air and paint on with all the spatter and get it out. And the first things I used to do was paint the airbrush. With the airbrush was my ship's hulls. So I remember clearly doing Bismarck. First time I ever built Bismarck, and I did her hull in a rather bright red. I mean, looking back, it was very, very wrong, but I enjoyed it. And I often reminisce. I don't have that build anymore, but I often reminisce about that and starting my journey on airbrushing, because what I did was I put the hull in my dad's workbench. So he had one of those folding Black & Decker workbenches in the 80s, blue metal frame with 2 wooden sections, and you can close them up and clamp things in different ways and stuff. It was really handy. That's really handy for me, and I clamped my my hull there upside down. I think it was a 1-piece hull, being Tamiya it would have been. And I sprayed it with this bright red. It might even have been Humbrol 19. It might have been that bright. So I sprayed it in all of this paint. And my compressor was a spare tyre, a foot pump, a VW Beetle washer bottle, and some rubber hose that you get on a Bunsen burner or something, connected to some little plastic tubes to make fittings. That was my compressor. So I'd pump the tyre up. That would be my air reservoir, and then press down on the needle. So I could only do it in the garage. I could only airbrush in the garage, which was great. Swing the garage doors open, and lots of air circulation. But there's red paint to this day all over my dad's Black & Decker workbench, which I now have because he upgraded to a flimsy plastic one. I kept the decent metal one. So yeah, I often reminisce about that. So if you didn't see the video on Friday, go and check it out. It's not just a visually stunning airbrush. It's a really good airbrush. If you've got a Mobius or used a Mobius, it's exactly the same experience, but you've got the cleanliness of Siphon. Now, at this point, as I'm filming this, it's Wednesday lunchtime. I haven't finished editing the video for that that's going out Friday morning. I have spoken to Gaahleri and asked about what the plans are with the Siphon feed, and it's just the first step in some much bigger plans for Siphon feed airbrushes and accessories. So they have got more air caps coming out, they've got different bottle sizes coming out, hopefully a side feed cup as well, as I talk about. And yeah, I actually found my old side feed cup from my first original airbrush, and it fits. Bargain. It just needs a bit of a clean up. I don't know where it is. I think I've put it with all my paint cups in its little storage box. But yeah, the Premium Series Mobius, go and have a look at that if you've missed it. Really exciting brush. If you were considering buying a swallowtail so that you can have a pot that does more volume of paint, that might be the way to go for you. Yeah, don't know, it's personal preference. I really like Siphon feeds though, and once you're used to them, I think they are cleaner to work with than gravity feeds. The problem is, what happens is, someone asks a question, what sort of airbrush should I buy? Sorry for a noob question, it's my first time going into airbrushes. And loads of people on forums will go, oh, gravity feed. Definitely, all the way, get a gravity feed. And the reason they're saying that is because when they asked that question, everyone said gravity feed. And it's like all these little chickens running around Chinese whispers. Oh, gravity feed, gravity feed. Everyone says gravity feed, so I'll say gravity feed. And then that continues that everyone says gravity feed. So everyone thinks gravity feed, and no one's buying ciphers, which in my mind are better brushes. What's going on? So actually, people will give you all these scientific reasons. I tried to work through most of the main ones in that video. It's all nonsense. It's all, you know, marginal, possible, you know, you'd have to be an expert to notice type of stuff. The main differences are with a gravity feed is the paint cup's in the way of your line of sight. The paint tends to spill out, and you've got more risk of paint leakage than if you're using a cipher. There's your main differences. Drawbacks to a cipher, you've got a big bottle that might get in the way if you're getting up close to small detail, possibly. Never really had that problem myself, but it's clearly a potential one. That's probably about it, you know. The rest, I mean, it cleans like an ordinary airbrush. Nobody has, I mean, I don't know yet because as I'm recording this video hasn't gone out. So I'm talking about a video that I know is going out but hasn't done. And I'm expecting some people to say, oh, it looks like a bit of hard work to clean. I have shown in that video how to clean it, and you've got to remember that extra 1.5 seconds to run a pipe cleaner up that tube or a little bottle brush up that tube is still going to be quicker than you painting the palette that you mixed your paint in, because you don't have to do that because you mix it in the jar. So yeah, there you go. I like Siphon airbrushes. I'm really glad that Gaahleri have pushed into that market. I think that's very exciting. So be interesting to see what they do with that during the course of 2025. So that was Friday morning. Friday afternoon we had more Scharnhorst. I am still to the bone with Scharnhorst. But that leads me nicely on to what happened on the bench this week. Well, let's start with Friday night actually, because I did some more fill and sand of Sherborne Friday night. So here she is. You can see she's all wrapped up with plastic wrap to keep her nice and clean up top. So yeah, this is my second fill and paint. So this top layer of paint is Humbrol 34 matte white enamel, and what I've got is this, the filler I've used is a little bit more grainy than I'd like. So I've sealed it with paint, and we're gonna go and give it a fine sand. And if I can't get that the way I want it, I'm gonna swap filler. I've got one that you mix with water and then go over it, and it sands really smooth. So we might have one more sand to go, and then one more paint, and I think we are then done. So yeah, she looks really good. She's getting there. You can see the shape of the hull's really nice. So yeah, so we did that on Friday night because I wanted to just move it along a little bit. Saturday morning we did fly. I've said I'm not going to show you fly for a little bit. I think I got 3 or 4 planks down on the hull. That's about it. So it's going to be a long process to finish the planking on there, because it's hardwood. You've got to soak it a bit longer and what have you. But yeah, it all took shape. I'd like to think I can get the second planking done and be ready for filling, because it's a painted hull, over Christmas. But I've got some other things happening at Christmas that I need to tell you about, so I'm not convinced I'll get it completely done. I'll get it close though, I think. Sunday was Scharnhorst Day, and we're still working on the forward superstructure. We can see we've got another deck on. We've got a load of photo etch on. Let's get this part off. On here, so you can see photo etch has gone on. The roof's been painted a slightly darker grey. We've got the little window frames in, and there's another plastic part on there. And we built quite a complex little platform at the back there. So that's all nice and dandy. And I think the next stage in there is probably building up the cranes on there. So it took a lot of time. I spent about 7 hours on her. A couple of minutes of video maybe. I mean, there's not a lot there, really. There is some other parts that we painted ready to go on, which we actually painted as part of the siphon video. Some of them need a little bit of a touch up underneath where they've been matted on the blue tack before they go in, which we can do with a brush. That's the appeal of enamel paints. You can brush an airbrush on the same part and you'd never know the difference. So we can populate this little area at the front next. So this area here is going to get populated. Then we're going to put the railings on and paint them on. And I need to just check where I am with rigging. The last thing I'm going to do on this is put the pilot things on, because they stick out. But I'm very close to having to put Scharnhorst on a new base. When I come to mount this on, she'll need to go on a new base, just to keep the height down, because she's stored up on the top of my shelving unit there, and there's only so much height between her and the ceiling. In fact, I'll take a picture and show you. And you can see she's covered in cling film to keep the dust and stuff off, because this is a kitchen. It can get a bit greasy in here if something's been in here for a long time, and we don't want a greasy Scharnhorst. That would never do. Right then, that's what happened on the bench. I know you keep looking at these. But we can talk about them now, because it's stash ads. Right then, stash ads. Couple of different things to talk about, and this is the point where I need you guys to make a decision for me about what you'd like to see first. I've got my preference, but the problem is I want to be doing 2 things at the same time, because I'm really excited about both of them. And that's just not possible. So what do I need to do? I need someone to make a decision for me, and that someone is you. So I'm not going to put a little poll up. I'm going to just let you put a comment in, and we'll see which way the comments go. So if you put a comment in under this and let me know what your decision is, that would be great. So what's the decision? Well, the decision's all about my newest acquisition, which is this. Which one shall we grab? That one. How many of you knew that Tamiya make enamel paints? I'm always astonished at how many people are not aware. Although not massively surprising, considering that you cannot source these in the United Kingdom. I have looked everywhere and I have never found them over a course of several years now of looking in the United Kingdom. I have finally found them in Poland, and from a website that you can flip to English, and you can see the price in sterling and get an understanding, but they ship out of their warehouse in Poland, and they had them. So as you know, I'm a bit of an enamel fan, but I'm only a fan of enamels because they're clearly the best paint system you can possibly use. I'm more and more rowing back from acrylics, and I went down the route of acrylics because everyone was going on about Vallejo paints, and this is going back some years ago now, and how they were better, and you had this bigger, broader range of colours, and they were doing paint sets that made sense because you could focus on, you know, a particular genre of aircraft or what have you, and they've got sets for painting a face and all that sort of stuff. And I sort of got sucked into that, and you know, everyone's going on about how brilliant they are, and I'm there struggling with them and thinking, well, why am I struggling when everyone else seems to love them? But when you talk to people, actually, now there's such a variety of range of paints, that's broken up. That's broken up. And what you've got is you've got the diehards. I love Tamiya, even though everyone tells me they're awful paints, but I love Tamiya. And by that I mean the acrylics, because the acrylics are not user-friendly. You have to mess around with them to put them through your airbrush. You have to mess around to put them on a brush. Yeah, they're just, yeah, don't like them. I have some left, and I have some Tamiya lacquers, which I hate because they absolutely stink. Not usable for me, and they're all in the attic, so they're not even usable if I want to. But one of the things I really hated about the Vallejo paints, even though I was trying to love them because everyone was telling me I've got to love them, was the fact that I couldn't mix them properly. You got to shake them, and they were going off. And you know, some were thicker than others, and some would go off, and it was messy because the bottle would clog and all that sort of stuff. So the dropper bottles, you know, you have it in your head when you buy them. And again, I'm going back years ago when they sort of were first becoming popular, along with Andrea paints that were also in dropper bottles. And you think, oh, brilliant! I can put one drop. I can put a measured amount. I can measure what I'm doing much more accurately. It's a load of nonsense because it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out, and then it squirts and goes across your desk and up the wall and all that. So you know, it wasn't easier. And you got some the top splits and it's all dried up, and it was never easier. And what I started to notice was I never finished a bottle of Vallejo acrylic paint. So I was always throwing it out with painting. And I wasn't used to that with my enamel paints. So I then started looking around at different acrylics because I did like the fact that it was a bit less odour. And by that time I've got little youngsters running around, so you know, if they eat an acrylic paint, I'm less worried than if they eat, you know, drink a pot of enamel paint. So you know, acrylics made sense, but I wasn't happy with Vallejo, so I messed around, you know, AK, and I had an even worse problem with AK paints going off, and MIG paints, and out of those three, I think MIG sort of became a preference, but again, they were sometimes hard work and they weren't performing the way you'd want, and some were thin and some were thick, and you know, and then, oh, we brought the next generation out, which is, you know, we've reformulated and what have you, and you don't notice the difference. The only real difference appears to be the label. So you sort of, so they didn't work. Then I tried Life Colours, and I liked Life Colours a lot because Life Colours were everything that Tamiya paints always should have been. They were the same size pot, you got the same quantity, they were roughly the same price, slightly cheaper. But unlike Tamiya, they did paint sets. So Western Approach's Royal Navy paint set, fabulous, with proper matching of colours. I mean, not bad paint sets. And they rapidly became my acrylic of choice for model shipbuilding, because the colours were so good. And all you had to do was put a bit of thinner in and it'd go through your airbrush a breeze, put a bit of thinner in, and you could paint it with your brush with a breeze. And a bit like an enamel paint, if you airbrushed it and then touched it up with a brush, you wouldn't know that you'd done that. So I really like them, and a lot of them have this nice satin finish, which I prefer, for especially for model ships, to be honest. So I sort of went towards Life Colours, and I've got quite a large collection of Life Colours, and I've always been happy with Life Colours. But I kept going back to enamels. You know, I had these tins of enamels and I keep using them for various jobs. And then lacquers became on trend, and that's all it is, it's on trend. Pre-thinned paint. Well, some news for you here on pre-thinned paint. Pre-thinned paint that I can put straight in my airbrush. So I'm talking SMS and other pre-thin Alclad and that bunch of paint systems. Thing is, if they've pre-thinned it, it's costing you a huge amount more, because I buy a tin of, I've not got one to hand, but I buy a tin of enamel paint, and I've got to thin it, which means that paint that I bought is going further, so I'm getting more for my money. If you've bought pre-thinned paint, they've already thinned it, so you're having to spend more because you're going through it more quickly, so you're having to buy more paint. I'm not saying you're being conned, it's very convenient and all that, but it certainly suits the people selling it, because they've got a much greater ratio of thinner to pigment and paint system, binders and what have you, so that paint's cheaper for them. Is it cheaper for you though? Nope. So again, I'm not saying you're being conned if you're buying outlaw paints, SMM paints, Alclad paints. I'm just saying that you've got a bigger wallet than me, that's all. So I prefer to mix my paints and make them the thin. I don't like pre-thinned paints. I don't pre-thin my Tamiya paints when I was using Tamiya paints, because I want different viscosities for different jobs. I don't want a paint that's pre-thinned for an airbrush if I'm just putting a dab on a switch in a cockpit, because I've got to put 3 dabs on to make it thick enough. Yeah. So for me, not only is it costing more, it's reducing my flexibility. So why do I want to do that? I mean, think about it. So I keep coming back to enamel paints, and I strongly believe enamel paints are the best paint system. I then tried Humbrol acrylics, and I like the fact that they came in big pots, but now they're in the dreadful dropper bottles and they're terribly inconsistent, and you can work with them, you can thin them and make them work, or what have you, but yeah, now they've gone to dropper bottles, they're less convenient, and I don't like them as much, and I've stopped buying Humbrol acrylic paints. I've not ever tried the second generation, not ever gonna try the second generation, because I then found these ICM paints, and Yay, they're in a bottle, so I can take the top off, I can stir them properly, I can decant a measured amount. They're less likely to go off. Brilliant. And when I was at Telford, I bought a black and a white. Why? Because I've nearly used those pots up. And I'm nearly at a point where I'm going to, well, I'm not going to throw them away, I'm going to wash them out and keep them for mixing pots, but I'm nearly at the point where I've used up all the paint. When was the last time I threw a paint pot away because I'd used up all the paint, and the paint was acrylic? I haven't ever done that. So ICM paints, I believe they're going to be sold as individual pots. That's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant news, because if I'm going to use acrylics, this is the acrylics I'm going to use. But my heart is still, I want a really good paint system that gives me a brilliant, hard wearing finish. And that is enamels all the way. There's no, I've done the video a couple of Christmases now and showed that you can work with enamels just as quickly as acrylics. Drying times aren't an issue at all. You can force dry it, it's touch dry, so you can handle it within half an hour. I wouldn't handle an acrylic paint in under half an hour because they rub off. They stay damp underneath for quite some time. A lot of it is people saying it, so people then believe it, and then they say it themselves, and it becomes a truth, even though it's not. So I've been really looking forward to trying these for some time, so I'm really pleased that I've been able to get hold of these, because if these perform as well as Humbrol paints, then I've got a second channel. So these pots are, what's it say? It does say there somewhere, I've seen it. Though now I want to tell you what it is, I can't see it. I'm not sure what the size of the pot is, but anyway, they're little glass pots with exactly matched to their acrylic paints. So when you get Tamiya instructions, you can read through there, and when it says you need XF2, it doesn't tell you, but you could have that in enamel or acrylic. So there you go. What I've done is I've bought all the paints, enamel paints, that I need for as per the instructions of building this. All of them. So including the flesh and things. I'm not going, well, I'll just get the one for the main body and see how it goes. Gone for the whole thing because I want to airbrush with them. I want to brush paint with them. I want to detail paint with them. I want to mix them. I want to just have a play throughout a whole build. See how that goes. Put them through different airbrushes. Put them through my siphon. Put them through my different needle sizes. Just really, really run these acrylic paints. And I've got to say, the odour is really low. So if you imagine, most people know what a Humbrol enamel paint smells like. I would say that these were just about on par, about the same level. Slightly lower odour than your average MIG or AK enamel wash. Yeah, you're all using enamels, even though you say you don't like them and you don't like the aroma, but you're all shoving washes on left, right and centre, which are all enamels, because you're putting them on top of acrylics. So, a lot of what people believe is just myth. And I'm a big fan of enamels, and I'm gonna test those because I'd like to believe that I can now buy Tamiya paints. It's just that I'll buy decent ones and not them god-awful acrylic ones. So there you go. That's my sort of stash ad, and that's why we're seeing the Panzer one again. So even if these are amazing paints, they're not going to improve that kit, but it's going to be a lot of fun finding out how those paints behave. And I don't think there's many people that have done anything about Tamiya enamels on YouTube, because they're like rocking horse poo to find. I very nearly forgot to ask the question, and the question is this. I plan to build the Junkers F-13, whatever it is, the new aeroplane from Mini Art, and I plan to build this. And I want to build both of them, and I don't know which one to do first. To tell me, which one do you want to see the most out of those two? Do you want to see me building this with a load of enamel paints and putting them through the paces? or do you want to see me build the Junkers and try and work out how we're going to paint all that corrugated stuff and have nice curves on the paintwork? Up to you. Leave a comment, let me know. Right, news, and I've got to try and remember not to forget lots of things, such as, let's start with membership. So last week I talked about membership is looming. It's something that I've always said I don't do, won't do, now I'm going to. And it's really a means to an end with trying to give you guys the opportunity to interact more with the channel and with your fellow subscribers. So basically creating a playground for us, a little social area. So where we are is I created the members package as a one-off package. You then have to get that approved. YouTube approved that for me, and then I've thought, actually I want to offer different levels of membership, and I'll talk you through those in a sec, and I'm going to talk you through the costs. So the main reason for membership is to give access to a Facebook Model Kit Stuff social page. And the word social is deliberate there because I don't want it to just be you're only allowed to talk about model kits. Yeah, we're all there because we've got something in common. We like model kits. But, you know, I don't mind people sharing how much snow's outside their front door, you know, and that sort of stuff. You know, there's people all over hopefully we'll get people from all over the world in there. I mean, I say that knowing who my admins are, so I know we've got a little bit of internationalism going on. But if you think about the Friday chat on the Friday video, the build video and the live chat there, you know, there's not much conversation goes on actually about model kits. There's a little bit sometimes, but it's mainly the weather, how people are, that sort of stuff. It's a social thing. You know, people are catching up with each other, and sometimes we have quite a long conversation about sci-fi or something like that, and other times we're all a little bit quiet and people are watching the video, and you know, it varies. So that's how I envisage Facebook being. It's going to be a real advantage when we do the 2 group builds in 2025, because you're going to be able to show your builds, show your progress, talk about that, ask questions, ask for help, you know, from fellow modelers. So you're going to be able to do that, but it's going to be quite a small group because it's going to be paid entry through the membership. So it's going to be quite a small little community, and that's going to make it nice because it's not a popularity contest. And I see some Facebook pages and they're trying to get as many people in as they can and show how big they can get. And you know, I've got 600, I've got 2,000 members and all that sort of. I really don't want that. What I want is just a nice small community of like-minded people who actually end up getting to know each other, you know. So that is sort of the plan. Think of it as a modelling club for those that can't get to modelling clubs or don't want to get to modelling clubs. So yeah, that's the idea. The idea of creating membership as a means to access the Facebook page, my basic thought process is, if you're a troll, you're not going to want to spend money just to mouth off, because you're just going to get banned and then you've lost your money. So I think, you know, that's a good first protection. The reason that I'm having admins on the page right from the off is primarily because I'm time poor, and it allows me to kick it off and have round the clock someone who can bob in and see what's happening, make a comment and that sort of stuff. So it's not about policing it as much as having people available and active in there, so if there's any questions and things like that. There are certain things that only I will do, which will be giving people access in for the time being now. We might change that if it gets really busy, but I'm not expecting it will. So to give you an idea, around about 10% of my nearly 11,000 subscribers watch Table Talk, and of that 10%, around about 1% regularly donate to the channel. So not all of those regular donators are going to want to be on the Facebook page, so it's going to be a fraction of percent of my 11,000 subscribers that are going to be in that Facebook page. So it is going to be a small little community, and I think it'll be all the better for it. So I've got 3 administrators, one in the US, 2 in the UK, one with not much experience of being an admin but is keen and is also one of my moderators. So we've got some connection there because I know he's always there on a Friday. But also we've got someone there who's very experienced, and then someone in between. And I think 3 ended up feeling like the right number. So if you put yourself forward to be an admin and I haven't dropped you a line to say, yep, you're in, let's go, then don't be disheartened. There was too many applicants for me to give everyone the job as an admin. But next time we feel we need to expand the admins, you guys are the absolutely the first people we're going to turn to. So that's where we are, 3 admins right now. We're in or about to start the process of setting up the rules. There's not going to be too many rules. It's not going to be draconian or anything, but there needs to be some rules around behaviour, what is acceptable and what is not. So we're agreeing those as a group so that we're all on the same page, and I need to create the page and launch it and invite them in. And then I'm going to change the way membership works and give 3 different levels. Why? Because I wanted to give people the opportunity of a discount. So I've decided it's going to be £5 a month for access to the Facebook page. And the reason being is that is less than most people contribute as a so when people make a donation, it's generally less than that amount over the course of a month. So I've got a couple of people that donate weekly, but when you add that up, it's less than that £5. So I think £5 a month for access all month to the social group and to interact is good value. Now the principal benefit is access to the Facebook page. That's what it was created for. But I will from time to time do some members only stuff. I'm not going to do members only builds or anything, so don't worry. All the major stuff will still be free to use on YouTube. But what I am going to do is possibly do maybe the occasional group live stream, or do some additional little videos, and you probably get to see what's going on with the jobs before anyone else does and that sort of stuff. So there will be 1 or 2 other little bits, but the main benefit is you've got closer access, more flexible access to me. So if you've got a question, you can also send me some pictures as well, which is a bit more difficult and means you'll have some real-time responses rather than waiting for me to see an email, because I get tons of emails. So yeah, exactly what membership will look like outside of Facebook, I don't know, but I'm sure it will grow with time. So yeah, so that's going to be the base. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it. You have to give it a name. You can't just say membership 1. It's got to have a name. So we'll try and come up with something modelling related, like, I don't know, tube glue, liquid poly CA, or something like that. Don't know. Brush painter, airbrush painter. don't know what the next one would be. So I don't know. I'll think of something. Second one will be an annual membership. And that will offer you a discount on the monthly rate. But obviously you've got to pay in a lump sum. That's not for everyone. And then the third level will be a lifetime's membership. So again, it'll be a bigger chunk lump sum, but you'll never have to worry about paying again. And again, that'll give you an even bigger discount. So it could be that you pay monthly, and then after a couple of months you go, yeah, actually, I'm enjoying this and getting something out of it. I'll pay for a lifetime's membership. Yeah. So if you pay monthly, at the end of the month, you'll be booted out of Facebook. It's not like we won't notice. So that's one thing we've got to manage. I think YouTube will manage that for me. I think I'll be able to see at any time who my members are, and we'll be able to check that against who's in on the Facebook page. So we'll be able to do that monthly, I think. So yeah, that's the basic thought. As for when I'm going to launch it, I'm aiming at 1st of December. Then I've got a nice sort of start date. Seems like an idea. But don't hold me to it, because it might take me longer to get the approval from YouTube, and it might take us a bit longer to set up Facebook, because it's a long time since I created a Facebook page, and I've never had to invite admins in before, so I've got to get my head around one or two bits as well. So yeah, there you go. That's the plan. We'll set the Facebook page up. The 4 of us will be in there and start some conversations off. There'll probably be a little welcome video that you get access to, and so on. So that's the plan. I'm saying 1st of December, 27th today. Yeah, some point in December. Let's be honest with ourselves and not put ourselves under pressure. Some point in December we'll go live. It's not likely to be the first, realistically. That was just a dream. Now, in other news, Vanguard Models expecting to have their new release out at the back end of this week. Should be coming out anytime now. I've not got one for review as yet. That's partly because he's had a big order from a distributor that's unusually large. And so he's having to put all his manufacturing effort into that. But the good news is his capacity is going to be increasing, so that'll take the pressure off him, but that's not until first quarter of next year. So yeah, as soon as I've got one for review, you'll be instantly seeing it. I know some of you are really looking forward to seeing the latest release from Vanguard Models. So yeah, that's that done. So the other thing I wanted to talk about in news, it's not really news, but it's sort of news, is where I'm going with the wooden ship modelling for absolute beginners. As you know, we're building Sherborne here, and really enjoying that process, and I know many others of you are as well. But what comes next, and we have touched on this in previous ones, well, what's coming next is Lady Eleanor. Now, Lady Eleanor is a fishing smack, but she's going to, there's got a different approach to planking the hull, which I think is good. It's also going to give you your first experience of sails, not just putting them on, but dyeing them as well, and running rigging as well as fixed rigging. And I believe there's a mast that we have to make out of square stock. So that's a good skill to get your head around. So we do all that, Lady Eleanor. So another small build, probably a quicker build than Sherborne, in fairness. And then after that, I intend to go to Ada. I've purchased Ada this week, so I'll be able to review her soon. Or I could be going to Grecian. I'm not sure which way round I'm going to do them, but these are going to be the other 2 builds that make up the 4 in the Absolute Beginner series. And the Grecian is quite simple. It's 2 masts, but it's only got standing rigging on. There's no running rigging on her. So simplified rigging because there's no sails. But she does have a coppered hull. So it's the first time you get to do some coppering. It's a fairly easy hull to do because it's long and thin and quite sleek. So you've not got some of these sort of bulgy curves to go around and stuff like that, and what have you. So an easy first coppering, and I think that's sort of my plan. I don't know whether I'm going to do coppering before or after Adder though. Adder will also give you 2 masts, but gives you a more complex rigging with a more complex bowsprit and you know, rigging around that, more complicated rigging. And shrouds and what have you. So that one focuses more on the rigging, whereas the actual hull and stuff, not that dissimilar to Sherborne, just longer, more carronades to worry about. But the actual build process will be similar. It's just giving you lots and lots of practice on the rigging. So those are the 4. I'm buying Adder. Grecian's a bit more expensive. It's £325, whereas Adder's only £246. So I'm buying Adder first. But that sort of brings me on to other news, because when I've finished those 2 builds, I then plan to build an experience build, although it'll be set outside of wooden modelling for absolute beginners, because you can't say that when it's no longer a novice build. So in the experience build, I'll be building 2. I'll be doing Speedy, which I've already got, and I'll be doing the Duchess, which has got a bit more bling and a bit more of a price tag. She's £414 currently. And then I'm going to do an advanced build, which currently, this might change depending if they release another advanced build, but currently will be Sphinx, which is £710. And then we've got the master build that we can do at some point, which is the Indefatigable, which I know lots of you'd love to see, but I'm just not ready to do it. I've got no space to display it. I'd have to stop after I've done the hull fittings before I put the masts on. My plan would be to have her with the masts on and with all the yards tilted, like when they're in harbour, you know. So that means I've got just shy of £1,700 worth of kits to buy to be able to complete that wooden ship build plan. And that's just one stream of wooden ships. We've got the Fly to do, and then I've got a plan to do something very, very different after that than all of what we've just talked about. Yeah, which I will be doing a first impression of in the first 6 months of next year. So yeah. So I've been planning out my filming program for 2025, and what I've worked out is, with my planned tool and product reviews and my kit first impressions that I've got, I pretty much get myself to the end of June before I need new content, possibly a little further. So I've got plenty of plastic to keep me going for quite some considerable time, and in January we know that I'll do some pre-orders of Airfix stuff. That's what I do every year, and then we will see where that goes. So I'm not planning to add many kits to the stash this year. I know I said that last year, but I don't need to add one a week like I did last year. So I'm in a really healthy position with plastic kits. So we can run the stash down a little bit, you know, get rid of 2 or 3 by building them. So what I want to do is focus on buying those wooden kits that are going to complete that build journey through those different difficulty levels, which means that those people that are following that for absolute beginners, if they want to, they can then build an experienced one with me and an advanced one with me. There'll be a different format because, you know, it won't be quite so tutorial heavy. It'll be a bit more, this is what I'm doing, and you know, these are the difficulties and challenges that I had to overcome to get there, rather than this is what you do and this is why you do it type of approach, which allows me to speed up a little bit anyway. But ideally, when you've done those 4 builds, you'd be able to say, yes, I'm an experienced ship modeler, because over the last 2 years I've built these 4 wooden ships. Yeah, and then you could go back and do either another amateur or an experienced one, and tackle something a little bit bigger. And the Duchess is very, very blingy, and has an appeal just from that basis. So yeah, that's my plan with channel funding next year, is to purchase those wooden ships, because you know, there's quite a bit of expenditure needed. I also want to improve the lighting, so that's something else that will come out of the expenditure, which means you'll get better lighting. I'm lucky today, the sun is out, but in the winter it's a real challenge for me, because right behind the camera is my double windows which go outside, so as the sun goes behind clouds, all the lighting changes. So I need some form of ring light that sort of illuminating me for the camera. So we need to sort the lighting out, so that'll be a purchase during the course of the year for the channel, coming out of the channel, which will benefit you. So we will have some new kits. Most of the first impressions that you see during the course of next year are kits that I've already bought, either at Telford or during the course of the year. I have a number of kits that were lent to me for the purpose of review, and we're going to work through all of those next year. So yeah, some nice bits to go through. We'll have new products coming out inevitably from Gaahleri, and I hope that we might have some tools to review during the course of the year, and who knows, some new products may come out as well, and I'm always interested in new products. So there's plenty coming up. You know, I can't say hand on heart I've got the whole year mapped out, but I've got more than half of it mapped out already, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now then, last thing to talk about in news. A few weeks ago I put a short video up, and some people might have thought it was a bit random. Can I assure you it wasn't. I put a shorts video up in which I shared my grandfather's, if I can get it out, Royal Navy ceremonial sword, which is in this rather nice leather case. So this is it here. So my grandfather joined the Navy when he was a teenager, 15, in the early 1930s, 33 I think, off the top of my head. And he was in the Royal Navy until 1977, when he retired. And that meant he was one of only 2 people in the Royal Navy in 1977 who'd been at the Fleet Review in 77 and the Fleet Review in 33 or 34, whenever it was. And he was all over the Royal Navy news as a result, and all that sort of stuff. So he had a long career, and obviously if you joined the Royal Navy in the early 1930s and you didn't leave till the 1970s, you went through the Second World War in the Navy as well. So this wasn't a random thing that I put up. This is because some things are about to happen, and I'm going to use the channel as an outlet for some of that. I don't know exactly when yet, but this is the last piece in a little building up of the collection of my grandfather's stuff. So when my grandfather, before my grandfather passed away, he passed away in 2020 from COVID at the age of 101. When he passed away, before he passed away, he'd already passed me his ceremonial uniform, his medals. After his house was sold, actually, his kit bag was found in the attic, in the dark corner of the attic, which was then passed to the neighbour, and then that was passed to me. And this was the last piece. So I've got my grandfather's ceremonial sword. This is his second one because the first one was stolen. It's a Wilkinson sword, and I've just put it in the scabbard the wrong way around. And it's got the full belt with it. There's a particular way you put it on the belt to make sure that the sword doesn't swing around when you're walking with it. But when I was a kid, we were allowed to dress up and put his belt on and put his hat on when we were younger. But I never saw the sword until I was probably in my 20s, I would think. Yeah, beautiful piece of kit. You know, he'd wear it for some ceremonial stuff, but I never really saw him. You know, he didn't wear it at Remembrance Day or anything like that. Some Navy dinners maybe perhaps did, don't know. But what I'm getting to, the reason why it was sort of flashed up, a lot of people that have got an interest in modelling have an interest in the Second World War. And I have a long-standing plan to write a book. Working title is 3 at Sea. My grandfather was one of 3 brothers, but one of 5 siblings, who grew up in the aftermath of the 1930s depression. So the Port family was based in Rudgwick in Sussex. That was the family home. Historically, we were builders. Most of the village of Rudgwick was built. The little picture you see of the old shop with all the people, that's my grandfather at the age of 6, sat on the steps there. And that's the village. And that building that he sat on, Humphrey's shop, that was built by the Port building company. It wasn't called that. It was Port and something, and I always forget who the someone was. But they had a big house. We built a family home as well, and we still retained the family cottage where we'd sort of originated from. So the business did really well. In the First World War, though, one of the cousins, one of the Port families, who was a builder as well, he enlisted into the army for the First World War in Liverpool. So I can only imagine he was up there on a building job when he enlisted. So if you think about rural Sussex, there's not a lot of building to be done. So I imagine they had to go out and travel around to pick up building jobs. And you know, Liverpool's always got some building work going on. Now he was killed at the Somme, Second Battle of the Somme, but and I visited his grave in France, and that was quite a moment. But I want to focus on my grandfather and his 3 brothers. So the idea of the book is that we will tell the story of my grandfather from 1933 and do a timeline until he retires in 1977, but include his 2 brothers. So his younger brother Peter, which my dad is named after, he joins the Navy in 35 or 36, I think. Also very young, 15. And then his youngest son, who I also met, my great uncle Ben, he joins in 38, just before the war kicks off. So we go through where they all are. So in the last 2 months, I've managed to get the service records of both Peter and Ben. I already had the original of my grandfather's on the original strange parchment paper material type thing, but you can get copies from the government of service records, and the Navy have really good copies of them. So we've got copies of them. Some of the handwriting is a bit hard to reach, but I know exactly where he was at all the stages, not just in the war, but during his career. So my great uncle Ben leaves the Navy in the 50s. He's invalided out due to a TB spot, which ended up never bothering him. Whereas my grandfather went from active service to recruitment and then retired when he just wanted to stop working and could afford to stop. So very different. Whereas Peter unfortunately perished during the Second World War, and there's a very sorry story to tell about that. So it makes for quite an interesting story, because you've got three brothers and the family around them. How are they experiencing them? Because we can talk about, I was very fortunate that when my grandfather was about 89, 90, I spent a long weekend, just him and me at his house, and I interviewed him. And we went through all his memories from joining the Navy to finishing the Navy, meeting my grandma, who he married in 42, and you know, how things came about, his experience of going home during the Blitz and then not being able to sleep in his bedroom because they've got evacuees and there was no space for him, and he had to go and sleep with his aunts next door, and all of that sort of stuff. Some interesting little things we can tease out. So now I've got those little pieces. I'm about to ask my dad to start filling the gaps on some of the family people that he remembers. So his grandparents died when he was fairly young, so he might not remember much, but there's other people like my great aunt and what have you. And we tell that story, and then right at the end of the story we add in a little twist which changes much of that story, the light that you see that story in, because of this little revelation. So I think it makes for a great story. I started writing it back in my 20s, and then life's got in the way and I want to go back to it. So getting the sword and all those bits of memorabilia of my grandfather's, they're important because not only do I want them to stay in the family, but they're going to become part of this. So what's that got to do with the channel? Well, lots of people that like modelling like military history. So my plan is to write the book, and then I'll do an audio version and release it chapter at a time on the channel. I've not started, I need to revisit, so it's writing from the start, and I'm time poor. So I'm talking in a few years' time that we'll probably do that. But that's the plan, and that's why you saw that thing of the sword. That was the day I got the sword off my dad. He's had it on display. I'm going to put it with his uniform. It's not going on display for now. Might do a little bit later on when the kids leave home and I've got a bit more space. But yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, there you go. I think that's enough news for 1 week. So there you go. Thank you everyone for watching. There'll be a little roll of names now, people that have donated during the course of this month. We will reset it after that and go back to whoever donates during the course of December. And then we'll add a bit for membership at some point in the next couple of weeks. So a massive thank you to all of you that donate. It does make a difference. You can see we've got plans. We've got plans to spend money to improve the channel. I want to buy more tools and products to review, and I need funds to be able to do that. And whilst the revenue from YouTube is great, donations are massively appreciated because they go so much to pushing the envelope of what we can do here. And some of the stuff that we've done this year has only been possible because of that revenue. So thank you very much to everyone that contributes to the channel, however that is, whether it's watching the video, hitting the like, hitting the subscribe button, leaving a comment, joining the Friday chat. You know, it's greatly appreciated. And thank you to everyone that's watching along with their model making partner. Hope you enjoyed the show too. Thank you very much, and until next week, have a great week, enjoy your modelling, and bye for now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. It's free, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can hit my PayPal link in the text below. Every pound goes straight into the channel to keep the cameras rolling and to do more fun stuff for you to watch.